Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test. Audio should be good. Looks like it's registering. One of these streams is about to feed me back some audio, so let me fix that. Oh, no, we got it taken care of. How's everyone doing? Got a new year, 2020, and got some fresh information about what the 2020 outlook is going to look like, not only for Bitcoin, but for the crypto market. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So we'll start things off by looking at the total market cap, and then working our way into more specific coins like Bitcoin, obviously, and maybe some alts. But I really want to focus on the total market cap because it is, in my opinion, one of the more overlooked metrics that we can gauge the health of the crypto market by. And so I want to spend a little bit of time first on the monthly candle because it just closed, right? New year started, so new annual candle, new monthly candle, and new quarterly candle too. Quarterly candles I don't look at a whole lot. I look at more monthly. I think quarterly is kind of a little too zoomed out for my trade strategy. But we'll take a look at it nonetheless. So first things first, here's the quarterly candle. Not a terrible amount of information. We're kind of in this no man's land here, right? No surprise. We're below support, below previous support, above monthly support. So when we look at the monthly candle, that's where I think the real information is going to provide some insight here. So the first thing I want to notice is, look at all this free space we have in here. There's nothing below for a good way down, and then nothing above for a good way up. So we're in this ranging condition where the market could come back up and retest. It could drift back down. But either way, when we look at the total market cap, we've got to keep in mind that this isn't a specific coin. This is total capital in the crypto space. That includes Bitcoin, that includes all the altcoins. And so when we see a trend like this, where the market is bleeding down, that quite literally means that capital is flowing out of the crypto market and going elsewhere, or at the very least sitting in cash and waiting to rebuy. When we look at the weekly chart, we get a little bit more resolution here, and we can see that we're kind of just doing this like stair-stepping thing. And I have this bearish retest labeled because a couple weeks ago, we could see we've been stair-stepping down, retesting, just really clean retests, honestly. And right now we're below the last major support, and we're seeing a bearish retest that got rejected here. So we had the break below support on the initial impulse. The market rallied, and it's just not really interested in holding this band of prices over here in gray. And the next logical level, if this support gives away, it's going to be, maybe down here. And if things get really hairy, it's going to be down here at the $130 billion mark. So that's total crypto market cap, right? That includes Bitcoin, that includes the alts. Most of this is being held up by Bitcoin. When we look at the altcoin market cap, it looks significantly bloodier. And I specifically didn't talk about the cloud structure on the total market cap because I'm going to come back and look at both of them together. So when we look at the market structure of the altcoin market cap, we'll do the same thing with the monthly candle. We do see it's like kind of sitting on this the support here. But if this thing gives away, if this support gives up, it is a very long way down. And this is concerning. This should be concerning for anyone who's bullish on crypto, because if this support gives away, man, it is, so, if we take it off log, it doesn't look as bad, but if we look at log, I mean, this is like, let's measure out the percentage move here, but if this breaks the support below the support to next support, it's like, devastating. When we look at the weekly candle, we do see we have a couple more levels below us, but nothing terribly significant. If we come back down, I'm looking for a retest of this guy. That's why I have this red level outlined. I want to see this level holds for the altcoin market cap to really secure a good base. This could be one of those situations where the market finds its, and keep in mind these are weekly candles, so the market finds its bottom at the beginning of last year. It comes back down and retests the bottom this year, and it comes back up. Totally legit, could 100% happen. But where we should be really skeptical is when we come back down here and retest. I think we're definitely going to come back down here and retest. I don't think the bottom is quite in, even if it's a local bottom and a bounce. I don't think it's quite in. I mean, we are starting to see some heavy divergence on things like the SMI, for example. We see it's very clearly diverging. And so, that's a good sign for sure. That means that the bearish momentum is starting to wane, and it's just setting up the right conditions for a reversal. I'm just not completely sold on this being the bottom. I think we're going to get one more retest of this level down here, maybe even just this little order block. If anyone remembers that, the flavor of the day, this order block here. We could see a retest of this, but I'm not sold on this being the bottom, and I think that before any meaningful bounce happens, we could see some more lows, especially with altcoins. Now, going back to the total market cap, I want to talk about the trend model, which the trend model that I like to use is the cloud structure with the overlaid 50 and 200 EMAs. And we'll take a look at what that looks like, because it doesn't look the best. I don't use the typical doubled settings that a lot of people like to use. I just use the default settings that works just fine for me. But what we see here is a decisively bearish model, right? The price is trending below the cloud. I wish this didn't pull up every time I did that. We see the price trending below the cloud. It's below the 50 EMA, still above the 200 EMA. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But the fact that we broke below the 50, tried to raise back above it, and then just decisively broke below it, and we got the price below the cloud. It's kind of sitting on top of support, and the 200 EMA is yet to get retested. So what I'm looking for is a total crypto move down, to the downside. That doesn't, just because I'm expecting a crypto move to the downside, doesn't give any sort of insight as to what price levels we can expect for Bitcoin or various altcoins. All that means is that I think we get one more complete market shove downward, hit this 200 EMA, and then we'll reassess from there. But I'm not completely satisfied, especially given the way the Bitcoin looks right now. Before we talk about Bitcoin, though, I'll go ahead and look at this altcoin cloud structure just so we keep it, keep it consistent. So looking at the altcoin market structure, we can see considerably more bearish structure than Bitcoin. So we see that the market came up into the cloud, got spat out, right? It didn't even get a chance to rally to the end of the cloud, which is typically what ends up happening. Failed to find support on the 50, failed to find support on the 200 EMA, and this thing just looks like a bearish continuation and an otherwise strong downtrend. If this thing gives way, like I said, it's a long way down. Okay, before we start running around, like chickens with their head cut off, though, we got to see how the market handles this $46 billion mark, the $47 billion mark. If that holds, then we're in good shape, right? But I do think at minimum we're going to see a retest there, and maybe we'll see some sort of bottoming action take place where we see like a rounding bottom, where the market goes through an accumulation phase and rounds back up. I think that's probably more likely than just like a complete crypto meltdown where just all hell breaks loose. I think that's probably more likely. But I think at minimum we see new lows, and I'll be looking to be a buyer on the next shove down. Before I go to talk about Bitcoin, which I think is probably what most people really care about, a lot of people don't really care about the total market cap stuff. Do you guys have any questions about this? Before we go forward. Oh, Happy New Year's, guys. Sorry, my head was turned toward my center monitor instead of my side monitor. Does anyone have any questions about this stuff before I go to the Bitcoin and ultimately some various alts? Give you guys a sec. Bring the blood. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this Bitcoin. So first, I want to talk about the CME. We'll take a change of pace here. We'll talk about the CME futures chart because it is interesting, and I've been noticing that the market has, although it is like real gappy, it's actually been playing pretty cleanly in terms of what we can expect for macro moves. So it's something that I've been keeping a close eye on, and one of the things that obviously pops out is that this is a bearish trend model. Price is respecting the resistance of the Kijun, which is this red line here. We are seeing a little bit of a relief bounce after getting a bit overextended on these drives down, but I don't see anything here that is indicative of bottom formation. We see kind of this like dribbling ball thing where it goes here and then there's an ultimate shakeout or something like that. Like we see that happen all the time in crypto where it'll bounce, make a marginally lower low, fail to make a higher high, and then it'll come here and then it'll like kind of come down here and this will be the bottom, somewhere in here. So I think that's more what is in store here. So we see a shove, a lower shove, a weaker rally. We see a push to a new low, and then maybe the bottom starts to form right in here. That's what I'm expecting. And there's a lot of reason to think so. When we look at not only the CME chart, but just like standard, like Coinbase or something, right? We can see on the weekly structure, there is a large level that has been untested, and that is the bottom of the 2018 range, which is this little burrow right here. We have yet to see the retest. That's not to say the market has to retest it, but it seems logical that it's going to retest it, considering it was such strong support. I think before a lot of people, before we see major capital start to pour back in, I think a lot of investors are waiting to see how this level holds. Because, I mean, if you've been on crypto Twitter at all, it's very divisive right now. People are either like new all-time high by end of the year, which is like the default statement by everyone who has Bitcoin ever, or people are saying, 5K to 3K. There's no like middle ground where people are saying, maybe just a lower low, and this is, this is the bottom. I think the more and more in action we see in crypto, the more and more we range, the more and more divisive people's opinions become, and there's not a whole lot of middle ground. I'm personally kind of in between the two parties. I really want to see a retest of this zone right here between 63.50 and 61.50. I've been saying that since this initial impulse, I guess 2 months ago at this point, a month and a half ago at this point. I'm still waiting for 63.50. I want to see that level hold as it's a monthly level. And when we zoom out to the monthly candles, it seems, logical to me that we at least see a test of that. We do see a couple of reaching wicks, but nothing that says, hey, support is here, it's here to stay, it's been tested, blah, 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 right? So I'm gunning for 63.50. I'm currently short. A bunch of people in my trading group are short, and I'm currently waiting to see this. That's my first take profit point. What I'm really looking for though is if that level gives way. I mean, that's again a long way down. Just like I said on the total market cap, if this thing pops, even if it's just a knifing move down that gets rejected, there is no below this level. There is no support. So I'm going to, until I see this level get tested and get it closed back above. I'm not terribly bullish or optimistic about this range. I see some signs that this is potentially just a consolidation before a continuation. And something that I'm going to look for personally before I change my tune about that is I want to see this level get reclaimed, this like zone between right here, between 77 and 78.50. I want to see this zone. I want to see the market come back up and find support on this stuff right here. That's what I'm looking for personally. I don't like these impulsive moves. They're very hard to play. They rarely have good setups for them, and you can easily get caught holding bags. So I'm not personally looking to play these impulsive moves. I want to see something that strikes confidence that, you know, we're seeing trend changing behavior, and something that is going to instill confidence in me. And I think a lot of people who play the macro charts is, I want to see this level get tested, even if it's just a little, you know, just a little V in there. That's fine for me. I want to see it get tested, and I want to see the bulls show some conviction there. Until then, the trend is down, the trend model is down, and I see no reason to see it change. When we look at the daily chart, I mean, it's the same sort of story. So we see the cloud structure, and it just says bearish, 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 right? It's like we see these moves down. God damn it. Let me find a better chart. We'll look at this. Okay. Until we see, you know, the trend changing behavior where we see a move back above, on this chart it'll be right here, until we see a move back above this horizontal at 7,800 to, they put a little band there so we can identify it. Boom. Until we see a move back above that zone, I'm not terribly optimistic. This just looks like a bearish trend model. I mean, we see the market finding resistance on the 50 EMA. The cloud is as bearish as it can be. You know, the market is seeing a little bit of a weak bullish cross here, but I mean, it's already finding resistance. If you're a cloud trader, it's already finding resistance on the Tenkan, and, you know, waning support on the Kijun. So it's nothing that's terribly impressive. That being said, if we get a move back inside the cloud and we get a close inside the cloud right in here, this activates an edge-to-edge trade, which would have us rallying up until about 8,500. Where it goes from there, that remains to be seen. But it, you know, until it breaks out of the cloud and we see the market trending back above, I'm going to treat any move to the top of the cloud like this, right? Where it's a bounce, it's a profit taking opportunity for longs, and yeah, so it's a long road ahead of us until we see a bullish market model, and this slow dribbling ball that we see where the market is just kind of like bouncing down and bouncing down and bouncing down. And we can see it's starting to decelerate a little bit, like the market is not becoming as drastic. But again, I'm still looking for that retest of the 63.50. That's where I have my eyes set. That's where I have my buy set. That's where I have my take profit on my short set. So that's what I'm eyeballing. Any questions about Bitcoin before I go forward? No questions? Oh yeah, forgot about this too. The weekly cloud model is now bearish. It's officially through the cloud. We saw, you know, resistance at the 50 EMA. You know, maybe we see a formal retest of it, but the weekly cloud is now bearish. So, not, you know, I see a lot of people on crypto Twitter talking about how, and I took like several weeks off of crypto Twitter. I haven't been on it. Really made a specific effort not to do it this, you know, for the majority of December. And I come back on here and I'm like, I'm expecting to see people saying that they see that they're, you know, that they're fairly bearish, and it's just not what I see. You know, like it's just very surprising to me. I'm not really sure what the argument is that this is a potential bottom, but I see a lot of people arguing that this is a bottom. And personally, whenever I see 4-hour time frames like this test support over and over again, that's not something I personally want to be longing. I mean, this looks like, again, we're holding support here. We tested it, you know, time after time after time. And if this gives way, there's nothing really here. And it would further support the move to 63.50, which would be a new low here. So I don't see the eagerness to be longing this shit. This doesn't look like something that I'm particularly interested in. I don't see signs of accumulation. I just see signs of a grinding support that's been tested over and over and over again. And just longing now just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. If for whatever reason the market moves and it finds support here, then I'll be long all day. But until then, I'm short. I've been short. I'm just looking to ride this out and until this makes a new low and hopefully hit the 63.50 mark. I know that's probably not what a lot of you guys wanted to hear, and probably not in line with what a lot of people on Twitter are saying right now, but it's what I see. If anything, I see a case for this being redistribution, but that's just me. All right, question. If it hits the 63.50 mark and we see a bounce, would it look like an accumulation phase? It would really depend on the type of bounce, because what we could see is something like this, where we see a move below and it rallies, and it rallies, but if it starts bleeding out like this, I mean, it's just hard to read from like a specific like Wyckoffean perspective, because as the liquidity gets less and less, and that's just what happens as you see downtrends mature, like liquidity typically gets less and less. It gets worse and worse. You start having to see these large impulsive moves to search for liquidity for larger players. So it's really hard to say. Like, I don't see anything about this. Like, say for example, it went down to 63.50 and it rallied. From a potential accumulation standpoint, it would just depend on how the market rallied. Typically, when we see we see these three pushes to they call them three drive harmonics, right? Where the market typically does things in threes. Like here's an example of one, two, three, and on the third thrust, that's where it really blows its wad. And we see this here, 1, 2, 3. This sort of thing is like really common, especially in crypto. So if I see another shove down here that gets back up and it closes back above this low, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to, whether or not that's going to be a quote unquote accumulation, or maybe it's just an impulsive move like this that ultimately bleeds out. That remains to be seen. But I definitely think that if we see a move to 63.50 and a bounce here, that's going to be something that cascades us at least to a new high. And whether or not this holds support here remains to be seen. But I think at least if we see the 63.50 and we see a little bit of a bounce, that's ultimately going to yield a strong move to the upside here, and obviously clear all these stops here. Whether or not that comes up and immediately comes down remains to be seen. But I'll be looking to take a long here and looking to gauge the reaction once it rallies back up. That's just my personal strategy that I'm looking for, because I typically trade the daily and the 4-hour charts for Bitcoin. So yeah, especially given this like macro divergence here, like this just can't be ignored. It's really, really, it's very, very, it's been building up, and so it's going to play out eventually, whether or not that results in a shakeout and a rally, or a slow grinding bottom that pushes out, that remains to be seen. But I think we're closer to the bottom than not. I'm currently in the camp where I don't really care either way it goes. Like, I see a strong case for it to push up. I see a strong case for it to push down. And right now we're in the teetering side. Like, if we push a little bit lower, if we push out a low and it doesn't rally, that to me says it's going to 5K for sure. If we push out a low and it doesn't hold, like it pushes a low and it sees a little bit of a buying effort take place, I think it's going to 8K for sure, 8,500 for sure. So it's like a high percentage move either way. So I personally don't care which way it goes. I currently at this moment, I'm definitely leaning bearish. I definitely think we're going to see a new low pushed out of this range. It's just going to be interesting to see how the reaction is off of the new low. That's what I'm really looking for. Hope that answered your question. Probably not. Thank you. What is your opinion on the 4-year cycle that Bitcoin goes through? The 4-year cycle. That is a very vague question. What do you mean by that? Oh, this isn't going to give us enough data. What do you mean by 4-year cycle? You mean what? From here to here? And then from here to here? Not sure if you ever heard, but usually on the 3rd year of the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin goes through a major bull run. I guess apparently 2017 was the 3rd year of the 4-year cycle. So I mean, there's just not enough data to support an argument for something like that. It happened twice. I don't think something happening twice is a cause to have a strong opinion either way. I don't personally see a strong argument either way for that. So I don't have an opinion on it. Something to keep in mind though is that basically about half of this year has spent retracing. There's just been a slow grinding effort here going downward. There's been no real floor established. And so if we pop a new low and it doesn't immediately come back up, it's coming back down to this level. And we can see that each one of these little consolidation periods happened on the prior support levels here. Oops. The prior support levels here. So something like this, something like this. And now we can see that we're finding the range on top and bottom. Now here's the bottom of the range here. If this range gives way, well, then we're coming down here. And whether or not that's just going to be impulsive or not, we'll have to pay attention to that. But like, to me, this looks no different than something like this. This doesn't look much different at all. It just looks like we're kind of just dribbling through support until ultimately the back snaps and it just goes down to the next level. In your last stream, you discussed how capital is leaving the market. Are you still seeing the same? Yeah. So you must have missed the beginning of the stream. So the beginning of the stream, I talked about how the total market cap is showing that capital is still leaving the market. Like, we still see a bearish market trend a bearish market model, especially in the alts. The alts look especially shitty. And it looks like on a macro scale that the market is going to see a continuation of its macro downtrend. You know, it bounced up, tried to get support inside the cloud, failed, and it got spat back out. And now this looks like a textbook continuation of a downtrend. Like if I was looking at a stock and this was like any other thing other than crypto, I would look at this and say, this looks like a continuation of the downtrend, and all bounces are for shorting, especially in alts. Bitcoin looks a little different. The total market cap for total crypto doesn't look as bearish. Definitely looks bearish, but it's not as bearish. You know, we see the market is still trending above the 200 EMA, whereas on the altcoins, it's trending well below. But even Bitcoin doesn't look the strongest right now. This doesn't look like something like, I don't understand the eagerness to buy like you didn't buy the first test of the support, but for whatever reason, you're buying the 18th test of it. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Anyway, you guys want to talk about some alts? I gave my spiel on Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin has a long road ahead of it before it starts to see signs that I'm like, you know, convinced that this isn't an otherwise, you know, just pit stop / relief bounce / suckers rally, whatever you want to call it. I don't personally, like, we haven't hit those milestones, you know, like the retest of 6350. I'm looking for stuff like that. I'm not terribly eager to call bottom here. You know, I have my criteria, and until that gets met, we're in a downtrend, right? Like, there's some criteria that needs to be met, and until it's met, I don't see any reason to be peddling something that is, you know, trend reversing behavior. Link looks interesting. Is it ahead of the curve? It seems to have put a third impulse low. Yeah, so let's talk about, I'll talk about Link because I've been following it pretty closely. So Link, we'll take a look at the at the BTC chart first. So with Link, we've got it sitting on, yeah, like this is something that I'm looking at pretty closely. So going to your point, the third impulse low, I'm assuming you're talking about the Bitcoin pair. Yeah, I totally agree. Like this is a logical spot to be buying here. With Link specifically, we see it sitting right on this support zone. I outlined this like months ago. I think we were like way up here, and I was like looking at this to be, oops, that doesn't, I should delete that. I put this on my chart like forever ago, and I was like, this is the spot where this makes sense to be buying. Yeah, it looks like it's putting in a third impulse low. It's on lower volume. And when we look at the market model, like this is good. Like it's sitting on the 200 EMA. You know, I'd like to see it back above the Tenkin, this blue squiggly. I'd like to see it back above that, but this looks like potential reversal territory. It's on top of the previous macro range. It's making 3 weaker shoves in a row. And when we look at something like the SMI or your oscillator of choice, this third grouping of lows is diverging pretty heavily. So this seems like a logical reversal point. Now, this is the BTC pair. So all that means is that whatever Bitcoin does, if Link Bitcoin bottoms here, then it will outperform it. Now, if Bitcoin keeps, you know, if it keeps pulling back, it keeps going down, all that means is that Link is just not going to pull down as hard. That doesn't mean anything about the USD pair. So we'll have to look at the USD pair separately to try to get some insight here. But the Link USD pair, not the best looking chart in the world. You know, the trend model is down. It's trending downward. It's not just like below support. It's like setting a macro trend downward. It's finding resistance on the Kijun. It's trending below the Tenkan. It's trending below horizontals. Now, that's not to say it won't come up here and retest this 50 EMA at some point. It's probably going to do that. It's more likely than not that at some point it will come up and retest it. But right now, again, this doesn't look like bottoming behavior just yet. When we look at this local range, here, you know, it's got a really nice set of boundaries. It's a very clean trading range. You know, something like that. You know, like this range makes sense to me. It's very clean. We see support breaking, you know, we see resistance being broken and finding support. We see, you know, all these retests are very clean. And right now we're seeing a retest of this little mini range right here. And to me, this just looks like, you know, a pit stop in a downtrend. Where I'm going to be looking to go long is if we clear this low and get back above it. There's a large, especially when we look at the Link USD via Binance, because it has a little bit more history on it. I clearly have not pulled up this chart in a long time. But what we see is a very clean descending channel, like this. No, sorry, not like that. You know, something like this. Boom. You know, it's really nice. This is a really nice, well-defined downtrend, has a really nice midline. The lows are very well-defined. The overbought and oversold conditions are very well-defined. I'm just not personally interested in jumping the gun on this because this could easily see a push down to this macro support at 150. The macro support being, macro support being the top of this range here. So this could easily see a push down. What I don't like though is that we've already tested it the first time. That's not to say we won't come down here, hit it and bounce and maybe do one of these sort of things where, you know, it breaks or whatever. But, you know, I see a logical cause for scooping up Link at about 150, 152. That's where I'll be looking. Bullish case, best case, bullish case is it pops a low, actually. Comes down here, pops a low, clears these lows and closes back above. That'll be a huge buy signal for me. So until I see a retest of this low here at 150, this cloud model just looks bearish to me. I just don't see any immediate reason to be jumping long on this. I think patience will pay off on this one. Oh, I also want to talk about XTZ Tezos. Because that was super, that was like, everyone was really excited about that a few weeks ago. And I don't see anyone talking about it now that it's bleeding out of its goddamn eyes. So let's talk about that. And first we'll start with the Bitcoin chart. So Bitcoin chart, we're going to apply the same market model that I'm doing with all the coins. The strategy is the same, right? So first thing I'm going to look for is I want to look at what the trend is doing. I want to look at the strength of the trend. So I've actually been, well, okay, I'll get to that. So this looks like potential trend changing behavior. What does that look like? So it looks like the market is no longer finding support on the Tenkan or the Kijun, right? The Chiku span, which is this lagging span, the squiggly guy, is starting to break through the price. And now we see the price finally interacting with this 50 EMA, and it coincides with a retest of the Tenkan, and it's getting slapped down from that. So I'm watching this area pretty closely, because if this gets rejected and it actually fails to find support in the 50 EMA, I'm expecting a move down to retest this 200 EMA which is like a 15% move or something like that. Now I'm also using that in conjunction with the USD chart because I've been short on Tezos since like $1.70. Been writing that sucker down for like the past few weeks. But again, this doesn't look bullish. This looks like a bearish model so far. Definitely leaning bearish because it's broken through support on the Tenkan and the Kijun. We've seen them cross, so the slower moving average is above the faster moving average. And right now, as of the time of this video, we're sitting marginally above the 50 EMA. Yesterday it closed below with a retest, but you can see that this Tenkan is fast approaching. It is accelerating downward. And if you were trading Link a couple months ago, this should look familiar. This whole setup looks very reminiscent of what Link was doing a few months ago. So again, if this thing gets rejected here, I've already hit my first take profit. My first take profit was this 50 EMA. My second take profit is going to be $1.25. So we've been just like marginally above it. And my final take profit will be this 200 EMA and potentially the bottom of the cloud, because if it gets into the cloud, then it's going to have a tendency to go to the bottom. So yeah, I don't see anything terribly bullish about this. I'm short on it. Both the Bitcoin pair and the Bitcoin USD pair supports this. So yeah, makes sense to me. And let's talk about Ether. I'm currently short on Ether as well. And I'll explain why. So let me clean this up a little bit for you guys. So actually, let's keep it consistent. Let's go to the Bitcoin chart. So when we look at the Bitcoin chart, I see a bearish retest on monthly support. So monthly support, since we're getting fresh monthly candles, is here-ish. Right in here. This 0.0185-ish. So keep an eye on this monthly support as we zoom into something like the daily. Right now, this just looks like a bearish retest of that monthly support. We broke well below it. Boom. We see a rally, and we're getting rejected off of this. Again, not a reason for me personally to be looking to go long here. This just doesn't make much sense to me. I think there's still further lows in this future. And when we look at something like the cloud model, like this is a bearish model. Even more so on the weekly. Like, look at this weekly cloud. This looks like absolute shit, guys. This looks really, really bad. This just looks like a strong downtrend. Yeah, I don't get it. And when I look at the Ether USD chart on the daily, further support of this. I mean, look at this. It does not get much cleaner than this. I shorted this retest of this Tenkan right here, and sure enough, it's holding resistance. This cloud model does not get much cleaner than this. I mean, we look at the weekly chart, it looks even worse. I mean, this doesn't look like bottoming behavior. Maybe that's not to say it won't make a range here ultimately at some point, but right now I just don't see the argument. I don't get it. Ether just looks like it's destined for new lows. And I'm currently shorting Ether with a price target of about 107. So I'm looking to ride this thing down for, whatever it is, a 30% move. Let me see. I shorted the Tenkan. I'm sorry, the Kijun. And I'm expecting it to go here. So yeah, 20% move. So yeah, alts don't look very good, guys. I'll take a couple of requests for you guys, since it seems like I'm trying to bum you guys out. You guys, what requests do you guys have? Okay, there's a question. I feel like Ethereum has made a lot of positive development in 2019, like DeFi, but the chart still looks like shit. I agree. Do you expect Ether to recover at some point? Well, what do you mean by some point? Do you mean like at any point in the future will it revisit those highs? If that's what you're asking, then I think, yeah. I mean, at some point, yes, I do. Just not right now. It just doesn't look good right now. I mean, what is it? A monthly cloud isn't even developed yet. But yeah, weekly cloud just, man, this is about as sad as it can be for Ether. All right, so you guys want to see Litecoin USD? Yeah, I think I have that chart. Yep. So Litecoin USD, man, I was really bullish on Litecoin USD here, and it just disappointed me in so many ways. Again, we got it. We have another clean supply and demand channel. I don't know why this isn't on my chart right now. I swear, sometimes when I go between devices on TradingView, it just like deletes shit that I've put on my charts. You know, something like that. We can see that, well, actually, let's adjust this. Let's make it more like that. I like that better. I think that's what my original supply and demand channel was. Tips for making supply and demand channel, if you're interested. You always pick 3 points of interest and extend it. So we got 3 points of interest here. 1, 2, 3. You want 2, and you want the third point of interest to be in between the first two. So you pick 2 highs, 1, 2, pick the midline. I'm sorry, not the midline, the low, the swing low that intersects them. And that's the range low. That is the oversold condition. And that's up for, that's up for interpretation. You can do it a couple of different ways too. You can do it from the bottom like this. This is just fun. This is arts and crafts time with Bitcoin Schmitcoin. You can do it here too as well. 1, 2, 3. And we can see, actually, I like this a lot better. This is much cleaner. Okay, we'll stick with this one. I haven't been trading Litecoin much at all, so pardon my lack of preparedness. But something that I like about Litecoin is it hit this oversold condition right here. It blasted right through support. And it's diverging very heavily. Now, when we look at something like the trend model, womp, 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 looks like shit. Again, doesn't look good, man. It's just very disappointing across the board for crypto. Especially when we look at the weekly cloud structure. I mean, this looks like, when we go back to the altcoin market cap, that's what this looks like. Like keep this mental image here of this cloud structure. And here's the altcoin market cap. Look familiar? Because it looks like Ether, it looks like Litecoin, it looks like all of these things. But one thing that Litecoin does have going for it is it's currently sitting on horizontal support right here, which coincides with this over here, this whole cluster of stuff. So it is sitting on support. It is diverging. I think that it's, again, I'm going to restate this. I think that its local bottom is closer than it is further. I think a local bottom is in. I just definitely don't think it's appropriate to say that, crypto bottom is in. Crypto 2020 is bulls on bulls on bulls. And even if it is, I just don't see the argument to support something like that. I think a local bottom here makes a lot of sense for Litecoin. All right, engine BTC. Yeah, let me pull up another chart. We'll use this guy. BTC. Give me a second. Let me sort through this. Yeah, this is definitely interesting. it made a bottoming formation similar to what Bitcoin did, in that it had this like Adam and Eve sort of thing, but it looks like it had a blow off top. This isn't something that I would personally want to long. I like this initial setup though, where you see the higher lows. So this is okay. So this is the opposite of what Bitcoin looks like right now. You see how the resistance got hammered 1, 2, 3, and then on the 4th time it busted. That's like the opposite of what Bitcoin is doing now. Bitcoin is on a support. It's going boom, 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 and I think boom. That being said, let me look at is there a USD pair for this thing, or is it Bitcoin only? Yeah, I mean, this doesn't look terrible. I just really don't like how many times this support's been tested, and that's echoed by the BTC chart. What? I'm not a terribly big fan of the kind of stuff that just keeps hammering levels like that, because eventually the little level is probably going to break. Yeah, this isn't something that I personally would want to buy. If I was long on it already, yeah, I would feel comfortable holding this. Stops are pretty easy, but this isn't something that I personally would be looking to chase at the moment. The cloud structure is weird too. It is nice that it's sitting there holding above the 200 EMA. That's really nice. It's above the cloud. So, you know, it's not the worst looking chart, but oh, it does have a really nice 3-day sort of dealio going on here. Yeah, again, like I said, it's not the worst looking chart. It's just not something that, in the face of Bitcoin potentially breaking support, I'm not looking to pour a whole lot of moolah into this one. Thanks for looking at Engine. Yeah, no problem. What does Engine even do? I'm not terribly knowledgeable on that. I don't even know. How did you even start to learn about this stuff, and where could I? Man, honestly, I just kind of taught myself. Yeah, I was lucky enough to start trading back in 2016, which is crazy because it's 2020 now. And I bought Bitcoin after Bitfinex got hacked. I set price alarms and I was like, I guess it's the time to buy it because it's going down and I've been waiting for this. So I bought it, and then it irrationally rallied like 120% or something like that. And I was like, I should probably figure out how to trade this stuff so I don't just lose my ass. And so I just started teaching myself, and then I started posting it publicly and posting it to Reddit, posting it to Twitter. People started asking me to do streams about it because they liked, I guess, the way that I presented information. And so I started doing streams, and then people wanted me to make a trading group. So I started doing that. It all really kind of just developed organically. Like I never like set out to be like, I want to stream crypto and I want to trade crypto. You know, like I was an aerospace engineer for many years, and now I'm doing this. So it just kind of happened. If you're interested in learning how to do this stuff, I would recommend joining my trading group by going to bitcoinschmitcoin.com, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. What a segue. Go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com if you're interested in joining my trading group, and sign up there. I think a lot of people are getting discouraged right now, to be honest with you. That's another reason why I think that the bottom is the relative bottom, you know, the local bottom at minimum, is pretty close, because typically whenever people's opinions on crypto Twitter start to get really divisive, and they're just like, you see huge ballpark bullish and ballpark bearish estimations, that's just because most people that are level-headed have just kind of been like, I'll sit this out, you know? So I think that a lot of people are capitulating. They're just not trading. Maybe they lost a lot of money. They blew their wad early. And Yeah, I think just overall trader interest, investor interest is very, very low right now. Do you have Wyckoff labeling for Bitcoin macro? Let me see. Well, it depends. What do you mean by Bitcoin macro? Do you mean like on what time frame do you mean? You can see Bitcoin's in this really clean supply and demand channel too. We never really saw a terribly oversold condition. That's another reason why I'm aiming for lows down here, because I really want to see it just go boom and just knife out of this supply and demand channel. Weekly / monthly. I mean, it's not really like there's nothing really to label, because it's, in my opinion, it's just in markdown phase. Markdown meaning like it had its, it marked up, it had a reaccumulation, big distribution, and now it's marking down from this gigantic distribution trading range. Let me give you a cleaner chart. Sorry, that was like offensively bad. We're not really making a trading range. I mean, we are making a trading range here, but I don't have enough information to really give it a decisive interpretation on it. This on the way up was very easy to read. It was like markup, blow through everyone's stops because everyone had their stops here. Reaccumulation, and it just kept drowning bears all the way up. And now I think it's kind of doing the opposite, and it's just slow grinding the bulls all the way down. And that's why I also want to see another push below here, pop the bulls, and then maybe see a rally there. But no, I don't have any macro Wyckoff labeling because we're not in a trading range. There's no trading range to label. I mean, we can look at like phase analysis, like if we look at the weekly. If we look at we can look at the weekly chart, and we can kind of see a little bit of information, but this here looks like redistribution. This has all the signs of redistribution. Like if we look at the daily chart, and we look at specifically the volume on it, make the volume a little bit bigger. I don't see anything terribly bullish about this, and especially when we look at the 4-hour time frame, we can get a little bit more information about this. Like sell pressure is consistent the whole time, and buying pressure seems to be going down. And what looks like is happening is the larger spread candles are the selling candles, and we just keep hammering into this support. And yeah, it just looks like it's going to give way to me. So, have you looked at Ether yet? Yeah, I just looked at Ether about 10 minutes ago. So just scrub back and you'll see it. I talked about Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, Chainlink, Tezos, and Engine. All right, you guys have any more coins you want to look at? I'll take like one or two more, and then we'll close this thing out because there's 24 people on here. No? All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, if something eventful happens, I'll do a stream about it, but I'm trying to keep a quality signal to noise ratio, both with Twitter and with the streams. So just because I'm not vocalizing doesn't mean I'm not looking at the charts every day. It doesn't mean I'm not trading. I'm just not really, as vocal as I used to be. I think the overall interest is pretty low, and it's more concentrated toward a handful of people. So, yeah. If you're interested in joining my trading group, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com. Give this video a like, a subscribe, a dislike if you don't like it. That's fine too. I don't want you anyway. And share it with your friends. And hopefully we'll see a stronger conclusion to 2020 than we did in 2019. But until then, this is a ranging market. Don't get too caught up in the charts. And you guys have a good start to your 2020.